Hey guys, welcome back. So today we'll get right into it and we'll talk about the CRNA school interview. So this is definitely the most nerve-wracking thing that you're going to do until you step in the OR on your first day of clinical. But that being said, if you go in prepared and you have a game plan in your head, then all will be fine, I promise. So basically, the first thing you want to do is look the part. You would be so surprised with how many people wear jeans to the interview, don't iron their shirt for the interview, or just, this is not the time to test out your brand new hot pink eyeshadow. Yeah, it might look cute, but not when you're interviewing for one position out of 20 and, 500 other people are trying to get the spot. So you just want to look your best and play the part. The interview really is about selling yourself. You want to sell yourself to this program and make yourself look like the most attractive candidate you can. So just looking the part is a huge factor in that. As far as the interview goes, I felt like the places that I had interviewed really focus on the patient population that you take care of as an ICU nurse. So personally, I worked in a SICU and I got a lot of questions on norepinephrine, epinephrine, vaso, like open abdomen patients, all the different types of surgeries that we get and stuff like that. So like with your drugs, besides just like knowing kind of where you start with the dosing and okay, norepinephrine, alpha receptors, you really want to know as much as you can about these drugs. What are the side effects? How does it work intracellularly? What G protein? Like norepinephrine, like IP3, diacylglycerol, myosin light chain, and calcium. Like all those things that you might have like glanced over. You really want to know like the intimate mechanisms of these drugs. And obviously you'll learn more about that as you get into school. But if these are drugs that you're using every single day, you really want to know how they're working on an intracellular level. And that's not everyone knows that, and that's something I think that will make you stand out if you know the nitty gritty about the drugs that you use. Other questions that I got asked would like relate to patient care. So like patients with central lines transduced to a CVP, arterial lines, even PA catheters. Because I had like stated in my my essay that I taught PA catheters during our skills day. So if you need to know everything that's on your resume in your letters. The worst thing that could happen would be for someone to like ask you something about something that you put on your resume and you have no idea what they're talking about. So know your resume back and front, know everything that's on there. And then if you start talking about something and you don't really know it that well, not going to look good for you. Whatever you start talking about is fair game, so you want to make sure that you know as much about that thing as possible. You'll get asked questions about like CBP waveforms and what does this A wave mean, or how, like, where is the A wave, where's the C wave, where's the V wave, what does that what does that represent? So like even just simple things like okay, like A wave, atrial contraction, or whatnot, or a PA catheter, like oh, giant V waves, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? How would you take care of this? So you want to know like okay, acute papillary muscle rupture, like mitral regurgitation, and how you treat that. Stuff like that takes a little bit of like in-depth thinking are the type of questions that you're going to be asked. You might be like presented with a patient scenario and kind of what the next steps would be. So just stuff like that like those really nitty-gritty clinical questions that kind of take a lot of things in, like okay, your patient is like septic and their SVR is like 400. What drugs would you give? What fluids would you give? Those are things that you want to, be able to just rattle off like that. So stuff like that, super important. Anything clinical that pertains to the patient population you take care of is definitely fair game. That being said, like I never got asked questions about like ECMO or stuff like that. My unit didn't do ECMO. My brain would be like, woo, if they if I got asked a question about that. But if you do, honestly, you can say, I don't know. The worst thing you could do is make up some random fact on the spot, because everyone in the interview is going to turn and be like, what the heck is she talking about? So just being honest when you don't know something. You're not going to know everything. You're going to get to a point in the interview where you have no idea, and that's okay. It's honestly kind of the purpose of the interview. So just know front to back your patient population. I prepared for the clinical part of my interview using this book here. I love this book. She is thick, but she is good. I got this book as a present when I graduated nursing school and was going into the ICU, and I still use it. I obviously haven't read it front to back, but especially I was like weak as far as the respiratory system went and ventilation. So I found this book to be like invaluable in explaining some of those things to me, and it's just so useful. I like definitely recommend it. I'm pretty sure you can just buy it used on Amazon to save some money. And then the other part of the interview, they want to know about you. What have you done for your unit? What type of cool things have you done as a nurse? Have you gone on mission trips? Did you go to like a cool conference? So just like highlighting those special things that make you stand out from the person waiting to be interviewed next. And a big part is seeing how you deal with stressors and, awkward situations and stuff like that. They want to know what your coping mechanisms are because CRNA school is so stressful. So if you don't have a hobby, you better get one before you go to the interview. So being able to list something about yourself that makes you a little bit different from the next person, and then really knowing why CRNA. You don't want to say, oh, I'm doing it for the money, I'm so tired of the bedside. That stuff doesn't look good because there's so many aspects of nursing still in a CRNA's role, and no one wants to hear that you're tired of taking care of patients because then you shouldn't be in nursing to begin with. So you really need, that's something that I can't answer for you. That's something that's very personal, but you really want that to come across and make it your own, because then you will be asked that question. That is like a guarantee you will get asked that question at some point. So just really knowing your answer to that, and then being able to answer those tough questions like name a time that you made a mistake, or like what would you do if your coworker was using drugs. And honestly, for those questions, like I had an idea of like what I would get asked just looking on like websites. So I would just write down my answer on a piece of paper, and then I would like practice with my mom. Or obviously you don't want to come across in the interview like you literally sound like a robot, but I think it helps me to like at least focus my thoughts a little bit when I was asked the question. If you get asked something that you really need to think about, you don't need to start talking right away. You can take a second, think about it, and give your answer. But don't feel like you need to like immediately just like rattle off a bunch of stuff. Like, remain calm. It'll be fine. And then kind of just like the last thing, don't cry. Don't cry in the interview. There's no crying in the OR. Don't cry. I'm only saying that because it happens a lot. And if you cry in the interview, it's going to be nothing compared to when you get yelled at the first time in the OR. So don't do that. So that's kind of my way that I approached it. Just really know your patient population well, know your drugs, know your hemodynamic parameters and whatnot, and you should be set. And obviously practice with a friend, tell them you'll buy them a drink if they, practice with you for 30 minutes. It seems to work really well. So that's kind of it. If you guys have any questions or anything that you want to know about me or my process or whatnot, drop a comment and let me know. Good luck.